I'm going to lose my gay card for being on time, or at
I
least
know.
almost. What are you doing?
What? Nothing.
I've only just bothered to look at you. What are you doing?
Are we live?
Oh, let
Oh
me
my
just.
god.
I just know we are, and I've just heard myself in 6 different tabs. Such an amateur. No, I just finally bothered to look at you, and you're smoking on a doorstep, which is
I didn't
not
know we were
unusual.
live. I didn't know we were live.
Not unusual for you, but thanks for showing people the respect they deserve.
Yeah,
This is Chadwick Moore, thorn in my side, and today, well, he's technically the boss today. I want to talk to you a little bit before we get into the fun about the nominal, the putative, the supposed whatever title of the live stream today, and that is addressed at my dangerous subscribers. And that's not most of the people, well, some of the people listening, but not all of you. It is the people who have been paying for a podcast they have not been receiving recently, and who also came on in the early days being promised a signed copy of my new book. And I wanted to address those people today, and then we'll have some fun later. But before I do that, I want to talk to you a little bit in a way that I never have before about the events of the last 2 years. I just felt myself slipping into Dr. Christine then, just like, like 2 years ago, and that has ruined my life. No, I've got to, with these characters now, I've got to keep them out. After the BuzzFeed story came out, leave that in the past, combination of mischievous misrepresentation and disloyalty and betrayals and all the rest of it. The next big thing to happen to me, which some of you will remember, is, well, I'm going to tell you what was reported, because some people sometimes get mad at me for not saying everything that I know or giving the full background story. But when I make a deal with somebody, I stick to my word. I'm not a liar. I don't lie in print. I don't lie to people. Very often that's not to my benefit. So I'll just tell you what was reported without embellishing it any. It was reported that the Mercers, investors in Breitbart and supporters of the president and Steve Bannon, had withdrawn support from me, with Bob Mercer saying that, basically that I was too much, beyond the pale, too hot to handle, all the rest of it. What you didn't hear at the time was that he had simultaneously cut ties with Steve Bannon, but they decided to go sort of public with the criticism of me most harshly, because I'm the one that always attracts all of the firepower. Unless it's Trump, people get most mad about me. So that was the sort of first big, terrible blow. Because I don't care about press from the left, and that stuff's always survivable. But when you don't have working capital to run a company, that's when things started to go really wrong for what was at the time called Milo Inc., which was a big media company. We were trying to do publishing of books. We did manage to get Pamela Geller's book out, a couple of others, obviously Dangerous, which sold like gangbusters. We were trying to do live events, which became extraordinarily it was the most incredible Kafkaesque experience that I've ever been involved in, trying to get live events done in the United States with my name on the ticket. Nobody goes through what I go through, and that is the case for all of these things. And it's fun, it's exciting, it's a challenge. I'm not a victim. I mean, I have a perfectly nice life, but it's a reality that it is enormously complicated and messy and time consuming and staff intensive, trying to get anything done. So the events business was not going great. Merchandise wasn't bringing in a ton of money. We had to downsize. And eventually, with the book revenues, although Dangerous did really, really well, I wasn't able to play live. And aside from writing books, really, I think of myself as a live act, in addition to thinking of myself as a recovering celebrity? A former icon. I'm going to change all my bios to former icon. So we were heading for a financial crunch. Now, I went into journalism a very wealthy person, but I've burnt through a lot of my money while I was at Breitbart, while I was on the Dangerous Faggot tour in colleges. That cost me, I think it cost me all told about 800,000. Cost investors of that tour, I think 1.2 million on top of that. It was an expensive thing to do. And we sort of entered a crunch, and I had to start laying people off. And then we got to the stage where I was going to have to lay off core staff, really at the backbone of the business, effectively shut the business down, if we didn't have a sizable new revenue line coming in. So the people that I had running the company were doing the best they could, but were not succeeding in keeping us afloat, keeping all these people, we had a lot of people on staff, in retrospect, too many. And so I agreed to do, which was not my idea, and it wasn't, in my heart, I knew that it wasn't what I should be doing. I agreed to do a daily paid video. We called it a show, but it was really just me talking into dead air. And from the first, there were so many technical fuck-ups in the launch, and so many, by that time, I think everybody was frustrated and demoralized and irritated, and I was still like, come on, guys, come on. But people were just kind of getting a little bit, I don't know what they were, but they weren't exactly performing at their best, and the launch was a bit fumbled. We got, 3,000-4,000 subscribers, but it wasn't what I was hoping for, obviously. And two things happened. One is that I got sucked into the sort of daily drudgery of doing an hour or more long, here's some talking points about the news today, kind of like look at what's on Drudge and say something right-wing about it. And that started to suffocate me. And the second thing is that I cut off my access to my own audience because all the stuff was behind a paywall, except for like a minute or two of it. It was, in retrospect, entirely and completely the wrong model for me, the wrong product for me, the wrong format for me. And unfortunately, at that time, I didn't have Chadwick as close to me as he is now. And I didn't have good people advising me and telling me, look, I know that you think you have to do this so you can pay everybody salaries, but this is not right for you. And it wasn't. And I slowly started to feel drowned by it and suffocated by it. And that's why the shows suddenly started to get a little bit, I understand why people thought I was kind of losing my mojo or something. And to be fair, I was, because I had been on top of the world, and then I was reduced, I suppose, if you might say, to kind of talking to dead air to like a couple of thousand people from a front room that had been converted for $20,000 into a studio in an apartment block, 10 minutes walk from my house. And it just all felt like the end. And slowly I started to hate the thought of getting up and going to do it. The show was not bringing in new subscribers because the marketing model was wrong, and nobody would listen to me about what we had to do with it. Nobody would do what I knew we had to do with it. And I just felt like I was in a hamster wheel with ever diminishing returns and not able to make a good product. We had no resources to fly me to places so I could go and like confront people, like not even plane flights really. And I just started to lose my mind and lose the will to live. And I think the key thing was that I just didn't have anyone to talk to or to play off. Just talking into dead air like a radio show or a podcast or something just didn't suit me. And it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing, and it wasn't the right thing for me. And even this format is better because I've got people like talking there. I've got Chadwick. I've got, even this is like, I love doing this. And so we've come up with something new that I'll talk to you about a bit later. But I want to first address the people who have stood by me from the beginning and who are getting a bit cheesed off. The British expression. Do people know cheesed off? Is that a thing? Do you know that?
No, I don't know. I don't think cheesed off is a thing here.
What do you have? Ticked off?
Ticked off, pissed off.
Okay. I've upgraded. Yesterday it was vodka and apple juice, and now I've got proper scotch because I've been dreading this all day. It's not it's not especially great, but it's Glenmorangie 12. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not really a Scotch drinker, but I didn't want to buy a whole bottle of something because I don't plow through it with you, the alcoholic, on the line.
I've got
So,
Hello Espresso, Especial, just
what is that?
some beer. I don't know. Mexican. You know, I like to support the Mexican people.
You'll be sucking on a Mexican. Yeah, okay. Where was I? I've lost my thread. I don't want to get drawn into making fun of you for an hour because that's what we do at the end of the show.
You lost your mojo. You dreaded going in every day. It wasn't
thanks.
Right?
You enjoyed that. You enjoyed that. You enjoyed giving that little recap, didn't you?
I could have bought champagne for this. For this live stream.
Be aware that I can mute you. So, like I said, I went into journalism. It gets worse than this, and it not only gets worse than this, but it gets surreal and ludicrous. So I went into journalism with money of my own. Spent very liberally. When you've seen me kind of like splashing out on expensive haircuts and all the rest of it, that's not company. That's my money. And so anyway, it just got to the stage where the show wasn't making anything, and we had to keep trimming down and down and down to the point where I was just wandering in and babbling for a bit. And we had to stop doing video because the video couldn't pay for itself. We could, the video team was, it's like 2 people plus the equipment plus the rental plus all the rest of it. It's a lot of money versus just talking into a mic. So it eventually became just me. This is how bad it got. It eventually was just me talking into my iPhone and just posting it up, just babbling for 45 minutes. And it brought me pretty low. And I, in the end, just didn't want to do it anymore. And I stopped publishing the shows, but people were still obviously signing up and hoping that I was going to do something. So this is where the story becomes slightly surreal. And I don't mind telling you about this because it's been reported now anyway, and I don't think anybody will mind. An heir to a very large American fortune, and he was the scion of a dynastic tradition of wealth. There's a university named after this family. There are multiple foundations named after this family, all kinds of stuff. Came in and said, look, you have so much potential. So you're so brilliant and talented and blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, well, yes, thank you. You're right. And I'm going to give you a second chance and I'm going to cut you a check and let's see what we can do with this. And so I was staying at the Bel Air Hotel at his expense. When was this? When did that Politico story come out? Was this 6 months ago, maybe? It's the most surreal thing in the world.
Yeah,
so
I think
6 months ago, I'm in the Bel Air Hotel. I'm supposed to be meeting this guy the following day. And if you Google around, there's a Politico story about this. You can find out who it is. But there's certain things that, as a gentleman, I've made agreements that I won't say, but it's out there, so I can point you to it. He died of an overdose, having been clean for weeks. He had a long history of drug addiction. The night before, he was supposed to come sign papers and cut me a check to reboot my career and life and all the rest of it. It was like the universe was just saying, no, well, you tried. And it just, I found it very difficult to motivate myself after that, to be really honest with you. And that's when I started spending my own money on keeping people paid. My tech guy, and I won't embarrass anybody on this chat, but it's when I started digging into my savings. And just to keep things afloat, because I felt a moral obligation to the people who had stuck by me as employees. But at that same time, there was an obligation, or there was a sort of a debt building with subscribers who weren't getting what they paid for in terms of video show, and also the first, I forget now, I think it was the first 2,500 subscribers, or perhaps the first 5,000, were promised a signed copy of my next book, which at that time was going to be Despicable, the book about Spacey, Weinstein, sex abuses in Hollywood. Now, I spoke a bit yesterday about why that book hasn't come out yet, and I think most subscribers know that, but I'll just recapitulate in case you are not familiar. There's a reason that even Ronan Farrow hasn't announced a book like this yet. It's because the moment that you say you're going to do it, the lawsuits will begin to descend. And indeed, I have had lots of legal letters from people who are, don't you dare even think about writing this book because we're going to rip you to pieces. The burden on an author when you publish a book is very much greater than when you write a piece of journalism or you do a video on the internet or you post a tweet. Books are considered more permanent. So there's a higher standard of proof involved. If you say something about somebody in a book and you can't not just persuade somebody of it, but prove it in court with evidence, you're in trouble. So a lot of the kinds of reporting and sort of commentary I wanted to do was very dangerous, because the way that the American legal system works is very tied up with who can outspend you. I was outspent by Simon & Schuster when they screwed me over with Dangerous. Now that ended up working out very nicely for me, because I'd spent 100, 200,000 on the lawsuit before I dropped it, but I made millions on the book by just going and publishing it myself. So hallelujah. However, with books, you've got to be able to prove pretty much everything you allege, and you've got to make sure you're on the right side of copyright and all the rest of it. And if you're writing a book about the sexual excesses of a lot of very rich, very famous people, it's sort of kind of a guarantee that the book's never going to see the light of day. Now, this wouldn't have been a problem for me, except that getting the book what we call legaled or lawyered, which is having the book reviewed by legal professionals beforehand, so they're satisfied that the major claims you make in the book, especially the more outrageous or shocking or damaging ones, you have evidence for, and you have not just reasonable cause to believe, but you can prove. So if you say director X molested person Y, that's an enormously high burden of proof. If you say person Y says he was molested by famous producer, you still have random people can say random shit about anyone, right? You have a responsibility when you write a book to show that you've done everything possible trying to find out if it's true, yada, yada, yada. I don't have the money to get this book legaled, nor do I have the money to defend from all of the lawsuits that will descend upon me when it is published. So the first thing I will say about that book is, I've done another book in the meantime. I've done Diabolical about the Pope, and I've got 2 more books coming out. One about Australia, which actually is going to be, I've realized is some of the best stuff I've ever written is in this book, so I hope that Americans read it too. And another book that I haven't announced yet, which should be out in time for Christmas, about feminism. It's a sort of greatest hits, lectures, columns, or everything that you ever need to know about feminism, kind of like a handbook for young men. It's like a survival guide to feminism, which hopefully will be a nice kind of long, slow burn, kind of like a perennial Christmas gift, So I put a lot of work into that, and it's fairly encyclopedic. I think it's really good. The first thing I'd like to say to subscribers is that I'm sorry that I haven't been doing what you paid for, and I'm sorry that you didn't get the book you were expecting, and I apologize for that. So what I'm going to do is the following. First of all, I'm going to give you the audio versions of all 3 of the books that are out so far or are coming out in the next couple of months for free on your private subscriber podcast. So you get your personalized URL on the podcast. Payments, by the way, have stopped on the website. All payments have stopped on the website. We're not taking new signups. No more money is going to come out of anybody's bank accounts. Anybody who's really upset about the last couple of months of monthly, $4.99s or whatever, we'll take care of you. All of this information is going to be coming out by email. The 3 books that I'm releasing, one of them that I just have, and the next 2, I am at my own expense going to fund, because it's not as simple as me just saying, oh, here, have the audio, because I've got agreements with all the publishers of all these different books. So I will, at my own expense, or strike a deal with a publisher to take a lesser percentage or whatever, give all of you the full professionally produced, paid, audible, audio copies of all 3 of those entire books. So that's your $50, $60 annual fee covered in that. But I'm also going to be doing some other stuff as well, and I want to read that through with you now. And I'll show you the email I just sent out. So just give me a second, because I'm going to let me just pull this email up for you so I can read out what I'm going to do for you. Little application window, where is it? There it is. Oh, I think you have to, there we go. Just give me a second, chaps. I sent it to myself so that I had a copy for you all. There are we. Just a moment. There we go. So I just sent an email out to subscribers, and I promise we'll get on to good stuff in a minute. I just want to make sure that I do this because people deserve this. They are owed this. So here's the email that I just sent out, and it says, apologies, which we won't get into. Existing subscribers. First of all, I'm not going to be doing the daily podcast anymore. It doesn't suit me. I hate it. I've come up with something new that I think that you're going to really love. I think it's the perfect format for me. It's what I should always have been doing. It involves singing, playing characters, doing interviews. This is what I should always have been doing. So forgive me, I'm sorry, but I can't, I'm not a conservative talking head who can be strapped to a desk looking on Drudge and just, rattling conservative talking points at you. It's suffocating. I hate it. It makes me want to kill myself. It's not who I am. I'm a performer. I want to make you laugh and make you think. And I can't be a carnival barker, and I can't be a shock jock, and I can't be any of those things. It just isn't who I am. So I'm not going to be doing that anymore. Nobody's having any more money taken out. I'm not taking new signups for the time being. But here's what I'm going to do for you if you have been paying so far. You're going to get a free full-length audio copy of all 3 of my next books. And Diabolical, the Pope book, you're going to get tonight. As soon as our live stream finishes, I'm going to upload the entire thing on your podcast feed, so you have the whole thing for the weekend. That's a good 6 or 7 hours, I think. Anyone who subscribed for any amount of time whatsoever since the show began, we're going to call you legacy members, and you're never going to be charged for anything ever again. The reason we've turned new signups off is so we can get a proper accounting of all of the people who've paid for stuff so far and who have ever paid for stuff and put them in this special category. And you're never going to have to pay for anything I ever do digitally ever again, provided I have control over it. And I will, if in 10 years time, if things change and I sign up to do a show for somebody else and for some reason that I can't control that, I don't have control over that. I will work something out. But in the meantime, there will be premium stuff coming. That's what we're doing in January. It's going to, and I finally found a format I love. You will never have to pay for anything from me ever again. And I'm going to record a pilot soon, which I think you're going to love. And if you live in any of the cities we're recording that pilot in, by the way, you will have your legacy membership guarantees you a live audience ticket to every live show recording. And that will give you a little hint as to what we're going to be doing soon. Now, I'm setting up a priority email address, which is just for subscribers. So I'm going to get through all this soon, and we're going to have fun. I just want to make sure that subscribers are clear on what they're getting, and then I'll go back to abusing Chadwick. So stick around for that. I'm setting up a direct priority email address for these people, so you can email me directly. You never have to worry about going through customer service. I'll take care of you. There's about 10,000 people that this covers, and I realize that sounds like it's a lot, but actually not very many people email that often. It's a very small percentage of people who have problems. But this email is not just for that. We're a family now because you've stuck with me, and I want to say thank you. So I'm going to give you that personal email that comes direct to me, and that is going to take priority. When I'm doing my fan mail, which I do 3 times a week, you will come first. And if I only get through you, then I'll only get through you. And that's for anything, dating advice, help with an essay, whatever you want. You'll have an open thing to me. You are still going to get your signed copy of Despicable as and when it's released. I can't give you a delivery date on it now. It may be years, but when it comes out, you'll get it. And I'm also going to give all 10,000 of you, it's about 10,000, I think, a credit for a free Milo ringtone voicemail or short video message from the Dangerous Christmas Store. So if you want me to do you a quick 5-10 second, it will just have to be 5 or 10 seconds, message to your feminist sister or your brainwashed teacher or whatever it is, I'll record it for you. Or if you just want a funny ringtone or voicemail message or SMS tone, you can get that for free instead from the store. That you will have the code for that within the next 24 hours. Your legacy member status is going to give you the earliest possible access to all future ticket sales, interviews, content, merchandise, discounts on everything. You're going to get black status. So we're Black Friday. Every day is Black Friday in the Dangerous Store, meaning if you are African American, you get 10% off all your purchases. Well, I'm going to roll that out to all of my legacy members. So you're all honorary blacks. You're going to get lifetime black status. In the Dangerous Store. So you get 10% off everything all year round forever and some other stuff, and I'll keep it coming and I'll keep being good to you. That's where I want to leave that because I'm going to bore people who it doesn't apply to death. But It's been really rough for me, and I've been very miserable, and it has meant that I haven't always fulfilled my obligations. And for that, I'm sorry. And for those of you who have, there've been a couple of comments here and there, just sort of like, oh, he seems really beaten down. For a while, that was definitely true. And I think you can see from last night and tonight that I'm very quickly getting my full fighting strength back. And the other thing I would say is also having some time out of the field. I've been reading a lot and learning a lot and practicing a lot. And all I think they really did, knocking me out of play for a season or two, was enable me to sharpen my knives. So when I do hurl myself back onto the field, you're going to see a considerably enhanced and improved version of me, which I'm very excited by, because I just don't give a shit now. I'm just ready to see the motherfuckers burn. But I'm also better at doing it, and a bit more strategic about doing it, and a bit cleverer about not taking myself down with them. Every time I try to take somebody out, kind of like losing 5% of my own, like, favorability at the same time. So 2019 is very exciting. Chadwick, how much can we say about our secret projects? About what should we call it? Should we call it Project Antifa?
Project Antifa. What can we say? I think, well, if people saw your, I think a good taste is if anybody saw your live stream, the first time Dr. Christine Blasey Baggett made an appearance, that was supposed to be your NYU speech. So we had studio audience. That's kind of, that's, I think, a good teaser, although we're going much bigger than that.
A very slight early frisson, just a slight something, just a little je ne sais quoi, just a little feeling, a little just of what it might eventually become. I will tell you, I have secured funding to record a pilot of the new thing. I have realized, many of you told me that it was a mistake going behind a paywall, and of course you were right. And I knew that at the time. I have listened. This will not be the case anymore. What we're doing, our new project, will be, I think that what we'll probably do is just say, give us an email address so we can send you we can bother you with things later. Free to watch. It's going to be, we're going to record the pilot before Christmas, because I have funding for that. And then as soon as we have the pilot, we're going to raise the money for the rest. Put it this way, it's what American television is missing. And you can fill in the blanks there yourself, but know that I'm a great interviewer, a very good debater, very good at playing characters, and I can sing. So cast your mind back to the golden era of television and to the things that perhaps your parents enjoyed watching in the evenings, at the weekends, the sorts of shows that might conjure up for you, and that's what we are gently edging towards. So I think we'll probably release the pilot publicly. Don't you think so?
I think I think we should. Yeah, and okay. I think this entire thing got started by you just saying, all I want to do for a living is dress up in costumes.
All I want to do is
dress up in costumes.
all I want to do is pretend to be other people and really fuck with liberals and really get under the skin of people who are not normally ridiculed. Because I mean, I am as good as anyone else at the SmackDown, debate, like, oh no, he didn't, viral moment, whatever. But there's a lot of that shit going around, and I like to always be doing the thing that's coming next. So the thing that these people hate the most, and the thing that never really happens to them, is powerful, incisive, hilarious, and damaging satire that kind of like sticks, that becomes permanently associated with them. Kind of really great comedy of the kind that there just isn't very much of on television in general, but there especially isn't any of from anybody at all, anywhere on television. That, do you know what? I'm actually going to read just the opening statement, or some of it, from our business plan, because it doesn't go into any details about what you might see, but it sets out what do you call it in, I've forgotten. It's so long since I was a technology journalist.
I will say something right now. Let me pause you for a second. Do you have Super Chats open?
I think so, yes.
One of our friends just texted me that someone donated $500 just now.
What?
Cynthia, yes. Give her Cynthia. He just said. Our tech guy just texted me that.
Oh my goodness. Who is this person? Cynthia G. Oh my goodness, she did. Well, listen, Cynthia, thank you. And the good news is that Google only takes 30% of it. So no, I don't know if I'm kidding. I think it does. No, thank you so much. That's going to go to keeping Chadwick in food and water with a roof over his head. I'm probably going to have to use his flat as the studio. I'm probably going to have to use his flat as the studio. I've stayed with him before. And I said, "What do you need 3 rooms for? I mean, you got a kitchen, you got an office, you got a bedroom. I mean, what do you need all this space for, Chadwick? You live in a palatial 150 square foot mansion in Brooklyn. What do you need all this room for?"
It's true.
I'm probably gonna gut his office and turn it into the studio. I don't know if you knew that before, but I just.
Yeah, here you are playing a character again. I'm the one that said you should use my office. I've been dying to get something there to paint it for it to be painted and remodeled, so I'm happy with that.
Oh, I see. So I see. You've manipulated me into giving you a free renovation.
Yep.
I see. Well, that doesn't surprise me at all. That's typical. Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you to the other people who are chipping in, and I will make sure that those contributions go directly to making this the success that it needs to be, that America needs for it. So, and thanks, Tom, for calling. I'm going to read you so that you are happy about that. So that you get excited about it. I'm going to read you kind of like the statement that we wrote that sort of sets out the market opportunity. So if you give me a second, I'm just going to find it because I am one of those OCD gays who keeps things elaborately filed in this very complex. Oh no, I found it. Okay, so all right.
Terrifying, your level of organization. It's unnatural.
Well, it's also not really very in character because I'm kind of a fucking mess. But I think the only way I can be a mess is to have my shit together, but only in secret so people don't know.
I'm not lying when I say it's genuinely frightening, the level of your organizational skills.
All right. Do you know what? I'm actually going to read this to you rather than have it up there. Wouldn't it be nice to turn on the TV on a Friday night and be able to laugh at the comical absurdities of campus social justice warriors and the brazen hypocrisy of race-baiting Democrat politicians? Wouldn't it be a delight to have a show that fuses comedy and commentary, free from the journalistic limitations of a conventional news program, but with the same level of talent, production, and writing as the best the left can offer? People who do not share the wacky progressive politics of the media establishment have nothing to watch on television. We either suffer through real time or simply switch off from entertainment news entirely. There's a glut of center and far left entertainment programming on television and streaming services, much of it poor. But there's nothing for the 60 million Americans who voted for Donald Trump or the enormous general conservative and libertarian market. Only I can fill this vacuum. There's no close second to me in comedic talent. No disrespect to my peers on the conservative side. I wish them all the best, and I watch many of them. I'm friends with many of them, but they're just not as good as I am. And that's one of the reasons the left has come for me as hard as they have. And the last year and a half has been so difficult for me. Mashable published this piece, Myelinopolis' proof that no platforming works. They gloat about what they do to us because they know that it's effective, and I'm their greatest example of it. They failed with Trump, and they almost succeeded with me. But I'm back because they didn't kill me, and I'm not going anywhere. I am a gifted comedian, and I'm a proven brand with you guys as well. This is for the business people. This is for the money people. Without a single review or interview, Dangerous, my book, sold across all media and in all formats and in all different, book clubs and all the rest of it, 200,000 copies. Now, I know that Jordan Peterson has done vast numbers, but he has been reviewed by every outlet imaginable. He's been interviewed by every outlet imaginable, and he's still only sold 1.5 million. I was not reviewed. My book was not reviewed by a single media outlet. I was not interviewed by a single media outlet. And yet I sold 200,000 copies of Dangerous. That's equivalent to like a triple platinum record because books are so difficult to shift because people don't really buy books. And I say in the proposal, Milo's been languishing in a fallow period. Someone told me the other day I should describe it in Maoist terms. I should say this is my long march. I've been languishing in a fallow period post Breitbart, but retain a loyal audience of millions, despite desperate for new content. But I need a new vehicle to harness my talents. Now, as the working title for the show, Friday Night's All Right, and this is that show to be recorded weekly on Thursdays for broadcast late Friday afternoon. I will play every character on the show, bringing my unmatched gift for satire and commentary to bear on characters. Sorry, this is written like this, but it's for potential donors and whatever. To bear on characters. So I will do imitations and stand-ups and satires of people from both sides of the political divide. So Rachel Maddow as well as Jordan Peterson. And it will reflect my values and the values of the people who like me, which are, of course, free expression, limited government, capitalism, property rights, gun ownership, the rule of law. It will express skepticism of Islam and feminism. It will express horror at abortion and the generally authoritarian instincts of the left. And it will defend these values while exposing corruption and hypocrisy through the lens of laugh out loud humor in the way that only I can really deliver it. And it will also make figures of fear into figures of fun. I'm the only person who has given it to Christine Blasey Ford with both fucking barrels. And that's what I want to do every week. I want to have a show where if the big comedy character in the news what would it have been last week or the week before? It would have been Brenda Snipe, the Broward County, the disreputable, dishonest, corrupt, like whatever the hell she... Don't you want to watch a show on Friday night that opens with a send-up of her, the kind of person that nobody would dare to really take to task at a standard with a quality and being funny enough that it could be on HBO? That's what I want to do for you, and that's what I am not a fan. It's not I don't believe in it. I just am maybe it's because I'm British. I'm uncomfortable with it. I don't want to crowdfund. I don't want to ask people for money. Especially not because I didn't deliver on the last products, which was very different and it was wrong for me. But I don't feel comfortable with that. So I'm going to go get the money from big donors because I want you guys to have this for free and I want it to be fucking massive. I want it to be the best show on TV that's not on TV. So, I mean, I kind of have given the game away here a little bit, but I see no reason why not to. Hard-edged political warfare, I continue, has enjoyed variable success in the past few years with attacks on Trump supporting and other conservative journalists, activists, politicians, and other figures escalating. But no one has mastered the one medium that tyrants truly hate, through which the excesses and abuses of the left can best be exposed, and that's comedy. There are some people who are funny, but they're not raw comedians. There are commentators who try to be funny, and in most cases, I'm not going to mention any names, so I don't want to be mean because I was very mean to somebody yesterday who is probably still curled up in a ball about it, who incidentally had attempted a career as a comedian. There's no point singling out anyone in particular, but they're not good enough. They're not funny enough. They're not talented enough, and I'd like to have a shot at it myself because I think I am. So it's a libertarian center-right show, aspires to the standards of the best late-night television from the past half century. I want it to attract self-identified leftist viewers too. Can you imagine what a winner, like we will watch sometimes leftists imitating or poorly imitating Trump. We'll watch an SNL or whatever because, I mean, fine, let's see if they're funny. And sometimes they are funny. Some people won't like me saying this, but I thought Michelle Wolf was quite funny at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. She wasn't even-handed, and she would have been funnier if she'd gone for both sides. But some of those jokes were good. I mean, I don't have the same horror at people who make jokes about people's appearances as many Americans do. So I know that I have to be very light touch about that in future because it doesn't go down well on either side. But I quite liked when I mean, the joke about Sarah Huckabee Sanders playing, what was it, Aunt Lydia on The Handmaid's Tale. I thought it was really funny. It was really funny. And the joke about her eyeshadow being made of like ash or something. Is it lies or it's probably lies? I thought it was funny. It's funny. We have to be able to laugh at ourselves. anyway, I want to take aim at both people, like Dame Edna, like Joan Rivers, like all the great comedians of the past. Just give it to both sides with both barrels, but maintaining my principles, which of course do veer in some cases quite far to the right, and in some cases just in a sort of socially libertarian center, what I consider to be a common sense middle ground. I don't think anybody else gets it right like that. I want it to be something like the very, very best of Tucker Carlson, The Daily Show, Dame Edna, Joan Rivers, Saturday Night Live, and the old Johnny Carson Tonight Show, all wrapped into one. And imagine the addressable market for a show like this. Like, why isn't that on HBO? Why isn't it on Netflix? Why isn't it on Amazon? Well, they're not going to commission it. They're never going to do it because it's too dangerous. It would be too good. It would be too effective. It would change too many minds. And maybe a dash of Bill Maher in there, by the way, too. Just the level of spit and polish that he has in the show, I think, is terrific. They do a really nice, precise, beautiful job of this. This enables me to have an audience in person that I can play off. And it also is something that I do every week rather than the drudgery of every day. So it can be brilliant. And that's what I want to do for you guys. People always quote Andrew Breitbart's dictum that politics is downstream from culture. I'm reading again. But vanishingly few actually put this belief into practice, either by producing humorous entertainment content or by funding it, despite widespread agreement that comedy is the most effective cultural weapon at our disposal. I think the reason I'm going to leave, any more of that, you just have to leave to your imagination, I'm afraid. I'm going to leave the specifics for later. I just want to whet your appetite a little bit with that. I think the reason that stuff like this has traditionally struggled to get funded and commissioned is that political donors want to see sort of tangible results. If you donate to James O'Keefe, you can see where your money's gone. You can see the stories that come out, the people he exposes, the videos he gets, the scalps, how many people had to quit from the DNC. But a show that just lampoons everybody, but whose underlying message is, government, get the fuck out of my way, get out of my life. People who have no right to be in our countries, leave. Islam is mental. Feminists are wrong about everything. So, a show that expresses how so many of us believe, and we do so sincerely with good intentions, and we do so with love in our hearts, and we do so with integrity. We do so with the facts on our side. I'm just amazed. I'm amazed it's not out there. But imagine how wonderful it would be, particularly, I mean, look, I'm at the stage now, I'm in a kind of, Chadwick likes to say I've got softer because I'm married and because I'm with somebody who I love and I have great love, I have a great love in my life. I think it's made me more stable. It's made me less hot-headed, but I am nonetheless in a kind of burn it all down philosophical space. If I'm not in a I just want to see, I'm not in that sort of social justice, I want to see the world burn, like I'm so done with the world attitude. But philosophically, this is why I don't care about publishing things critical of Jordan Peterson, for instance, because there's stuff about him that's fucking creepy. The way he talks about his daughter is weird. The way that that he constantly throws allies under the bus, Kavanaugh, Faith Goldie, me, it's upsetting, and I wish he wouldn't do it. And nobody has the balls to say so. Nobody will say this. There's all kinds of shit that he does, which I think is amazing, and it's wonderful. I'm glad he exists in many respects, and it's good that there's somebody who broadly expresses the views that we all have in the kinds of platforms and environments that the rest of us are not allowed into. But when it really comes down to it, he crumbles and he believes all women, as he did with Kavanaugh. When it really comes down to it, he throws allies under the bus. When it really comes down to it, he's a Marxist, and you can read my piece on Dangerous about it. Now, you may not agree with me, and who gives a shit? It's like, we don't have to agree about Jordan Peterson. The success or failure of the show is not dependent on that. But I want to take the gentle satirical lens and apply it across the board and see who stands and who falls at the end of it. And I happen to think that the majority of people who survive that treatment will be on the right. They will be libertarians, they will be Republicans, they'll be conservatives, they'll be Tories. I think it's very difficult to parody some of the people that I like, whether it's Pamela Geller or Gavin McInnes or whatever, because it's difficult to parody people who are funny, quirky, who don't take themselves too seriously, and who are right about everything. So I think that my big targets are obviously going to be on the left. But if you do, I think it matters that I have damaged my career in the past by being an iconoclast, and I think it matters that I continue to be one. So I want to take a machine gun to everybody and see who's still standing at the end, because at the bottom. This is very interesting, actually, Chadwick. Maybe you have a view. Maybe you have a view on this. What?
Metaphorically speaking, machine gun. You need to clarify.
Yes, we have to say that. We have to
clarify that. That's a metaphor.
Do you know that in Diabolical, which I don't know if I have a copy of to hand. Oh, you know what I did do though? I'm sorry, I shouldn't show you this because none of you can have it. But I got some very beautiful leather-bound editions of this book done. I can't give 10,000 of these out to the subscribers I pissed off. Sorry, but. I got the paperback rebound in a beautiful handmade leather, hand-stamped leather edition, which I basically just gave to the people who helped pay for for the book to be done and helped me with research and stuff like that. It's really beautiful. Maybe I'll have some done, sell them as special editions if people like the book a lot. But anyway, I'll show you the last chapter. The book is about how the Catholic Church is too gay and the current Pope has to go. And do you remember that movie from the 90s with Robbie Coltrane, The Pope Must Die? Remember that?
Yeah.
Right, so this is the chapter. So basically, the last chapter of the book is The Pope Must Die. And obviously what I'm saying is, because the Pope is a lifetime appointment like the Supreme Court, the only way to really change this is for the Pope to move on. So the Pope must die. I thought it was funny. Publishers, you've got to put a footnote in. You've got to put something in so people know you're not calling for the assassination of the Pope. And I'm like, it's a comedy movie with Robbie Coltrane. And the first paragraph of that chapter is talking about papal infallibility and the assumption and Mary. And it's just it's quite obvious, isn't it? It's like, no, I know, but people are just going to screenshot the chapter. I said, is that really what we're going to do? Are we really going to make books? We're going to publish. We're going to reorient everything we do for not just stupid people, because nobody actually is that stupid, but for people who pretend to be stupid, for journalists who deliberately, disingenuously, manipulatively pretend that you're doing something that they know you're not doing. And in the process, cost yourself the ability to make a joke or make an incisive point and all the rest of it. Fuck that. So if I have an hour to myself every week, I will be able to do precisely that. Fuck it. Anyway, that really annoyed me, and I made a point of not reading out the footnote for the audiobook, even though they told me to. I don't even know if they know that I didn't read it out, so they do now. So, Diabolical, of course, if you are a legacy member, you'll be... I should give cards out, except there's 10,000 of you, so it would probably cost about 50 grand just to mail you out membership cards, so not going to do that, but I'll send you one digitally. Tom, I'll get that done, okay? So people can print them at home. Sorry, but other fan clubs do it. I'm not too cheap these days. You can have a legacy membership fan. You know what actually would be really cool is if people print their legacy member fan membership cards. There'll be a space for me to sign it if they meet me or see me at a show or mail it to me or whatever. And if you have a signed one, that gets you special shit or something, if it's although people are just going to forge it, aren't they? It's very difficult. Coming up with this crap. Anyway, that's the idea. It's going to be wonderful. I think I should take some questions. Chadwick, have I forgotten anything, or is there anything you have to add? While I take a look at the chat, which I've been neglecting, perhaps you'd like to speak for a couple of minutes.
I think you nailed it. You said we said we weren't going to say anything about the show, but you just gave it all away. But that's fine.
I'm sorry. I just
let me just read you the proposal I sent out.
No, because I was thinking in my head, well, why wouldn't I?
I think you got it. I think you nailed it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm gonna open up you might hear this show for a second before I mute this.
You know what? I'm going to have to refresh this. It's so difficult because they have this stupid. Oh, no, wait. Somebody emailed me this. Somebody very helpfully. Oh God, I've done it myself now too. So someone very helpfully emailed me the place. Someone's put the camera back on, you beautiful bastard. Okay, fine, well, I will. Someone very helpfully emailed me the place that you go where all of your super chats are stored. So I think that's the place to go. So you don't have to keep following them and so they don't expire. So let me just find it because
that's what I was trying to figure out yesterday. Somebody
my favorite viewer from yesterday, because they sent me something useful. I mean, I enjoy the compliments, but something useful. There, look, and I found it, and it's wonderful. And I've got, look at this. See, can I contact people through this? I think I might be able to. So I can send Cynthia a note. Can I do that?
I think you can. I believe so.
Let's see, Cynthia. I can subscribe to her, which I've done. I don't know if I can send her a message. Well, if you're still watching, Cynthia, just email me at milo@dangerous.com and just put Cynthia in caps in the. Do you know what, Cynthia? You know what I'm going to do for you? Just email me, milo@dangerous.com, and put Cynthia in the subject line, and I'm going to send you one of these. I only made 10 of these. There are only 10 in existence. But
Milo,
it's extraordinary.
You've got a ton of really hefty super chats coming in.
Well, I'm going to go and look at those. So thank you very much for all of you. I hope you're excited about this because I think it's going to be wonderful. Cynthia, I'm going to send you. There's only 10 of these. They are hand-bound, hand-stamped editions of the new book. And like I say, I only made 10 because I just made them for close friends and people who helped me write it. I'm going to send you one of these to say thank you for your extraordinary generosity. So thank you very much, Cynthia. If you just email me at milo@dangerous.com and put Cynthia in the subject line. And I'll find some way to verify that it was you, and we will make sure that we get that out to you. Okay, I'll write you a note to say thank you because I'm very grateful to you for that. What happened? Yeah, somebody just posted something really nice as if what happened to you was wrong about the pedo stuff, and I hate. So on the one hand, I don't want to keep going on about it because this is exactly what they try to do. They try to tie you up talking about bogus allegations so you never get around to reminding everybody that they're fucks who lie, who want to rip apart Western civilization, destroy everything that is good and true and beautiful and decent and real, and replace it with just mayhem, with Caitlyn Jenner and Amy Schumer. But then again, it's like, yeah, I do kind of want to talk about it because it's instructive, because it's so fucked up. And I mentioned this yesterday. It's kind of like when I was talking earlier. It's like I don't have a burn the house down mood, but I do have a burn the house down philosophy now. It's like if someone doesn't tell the truth, I don't give a shit if you're on the right or the left. I don't care how famous you are. I don't care who you or how rich you are. I don't care who you are. I'm going to say it. And the second I have the money to fund Despicable, and by the way, there are some Republicans in that book too. I'm going to publish it. I don't give a shit because nobody's shown me any loyalty except for you guys and Chadwick and other employees and all the rest of it. Nobody from the establishment right, nobody from the establishment left, nobody from the press, nobody from, whatever. I have a very small circle of really great friends who include 1 or 2 A-list stars, of which, of course, I can't tell you. Some professors, one of whom you probably know, Rachel Fulton Brown at the University of Chicago, some other people in politics, people that I've worked with for years now, like Chadwick, my husband, a couple of old friends. This circle numbers 15 maybe total. And everybody else is a reader or a fan or a viewer or something like this. Everybody in the middle, supposed colleagues, like fellow travelers in the movement, they can all get fucked because I helped so many of these people on the way up. I helped so many of these people. I mean, I gifted these people their careers in many cases. And the lack of loyalty, the only people who've been loyal to me really, and sorry if I miss anybody out, I don't mean to do it on purpose, but, Pamela Geller, Gavin McGinnis has been a good friend. David Horowitz and the David Horowitz Freedom Center has been a rock. There are people who have refused to disavow me, which in the current climate is not nothing. Steve Bannon, Heather McDonald, I noticed in the Wall Street Journal, refused to disavow me, which was impressive and really decent of her, and I appreciated that. Because journalists always is like, oh, what do you think about Milo? Because if you refuse, it's like the white supremacy thing, right? If you refuse to disavow David Duke, it's like the Trump thing. Like if you refuse to disavow David Duke, you must be a white supremacist. If you refuse to say that you hate Milo Yiannopoulos, we're going to start presenting all of the terrible jokes he's made to you as though they were serious political statements or claims of fact, and insist that you defend them with with a body of evidence at your command, or you're out. And people don't want to play that game, so because they're cowards, and so they'll be like, oh no. And there are other people who have been good to me and who've never whatever. But it's just amazing the number of people who are the snakes, the people who are just anyway. I'm not bitter about. I think I'm. I perhaps would have been bitter if I didn't have love in my life, and that's not a very easy admission to make, because it means like if I'd never run into John kind of accidentally like I did, then maybe I'd be really bitter and miserable. But it's true.
Speaking of which,
what, are you about to make a joke at my expense when I'm being really serious and sincere?
No, go on.
No, it's fine. Maybe, do you know what? Maybe we should lighten the mood. Go ahead.
Well, speaking of your husband, you told me you basically spent the entire afternoon on your knees, and it really inspired me to.
Oh, don't do that, because he's probably furtively watching upstairs, and he hates it when I over-disclose stuff like that. And he's right, because it is the precious, decent. And I wasn't on my knees; I was on my back. But it's a.
Well, I'm starting a social media campaign because I think people need to know that we're thinking of him. We're worried about him. # Save John.
Why would you
save John? But just so he knows he has support.
He has support. He leans on me.
Well, I don't know what's going on. It could be a person.
I mean physically. I don't mean like
Yeah.
I'm going to get ice because you're a terrible person. Talk to me. That was a terrible thing. I've got headphones in by the ice machine, so I still tell everybody. I can't believe you prepared that. Ugh.
I think it's important that he knows he has support. So
you're a dreadful person.
Well, I want to talk to you about what Laura did today too. Loomer. Should we talk about that?
Oh God, yeah. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah, talk about fun. Yeah.
I don't think Laura would mind. I think she'd be happy that I'm just talking about her, and I don't mean that as a diss, because I love her and I would say just the same thing to her face on stage. I don't want to betray any confidences, and I don't want to over-disclose anything, and I don't want to say too much. But Laura and I kind of worked together for a little while she was receiving money from somebody I knew, and I was kind of I just threw some ideas her way, and I think we were helping her with some publishing, whatever. So I've had an opportunity. What I'm trying to say is I've had an opportunity to see how Laura works in real life, and she is as crazy in a good way, crazy like a fox, not crazy mental. As she seems. But the thing about Laura is, she's made some missteps. The tire rot thing was funny as hell. And she came on one of the only episodes I enjoyed doing of the Milo show was when she came on, and I had a load of pictures prepared. I don't know if you don't know this, Laura thought that her tires had been slashed, and actually they had just rotted. And she just didn't know that, and she just saw this line in the tire, and she thought that her tires had been slashed, and actually they just rotted away, as happens. And so everyone was laughing because she posted this picture and saying, "Oh, my tires have been slashed," and people were like, "Nah, that's just rot, love." She has hurled herself into a couple of missteps like that. And they have stuck with her. They are funny. I don't blame anyone for laughing at them. They are really, really funny. And when I had her on my show, I showed her a bunch of pictures, and I just sprang this on her. She didn't know it was coming. I said, well, we're going to play Rot or Not. And it was my version of Hot or Not. And I showed her 5 pictures, and she had to tell me whether it was rot or a slashed tire. And she got I think she got 4 out of 5. But she was a really good sport laughing about it. And I thought, fair play, all credit to you. You can laugh at which is not nothing. It's not everybody can do it. You can laugh at your missteps. Good for you. The same headstrong enthusiasm that has led her into one of, these occasional whoopsie daisies is also what makes her so formidable and so brilliant. And I just want you to consider this, right? Laura is young, she's evolving, she's emerging, she is so brave and so fearless. There was a time when I thought it was wrong to run on stage and interrupt a theater production Because I was like, no, that's what the left does. Can't we be better than that? We can't. We have to not only do what they do, but do better, funnier, and more of it if we want to win. And she was the one running on stage during Julius Caesar and stopping it and saying, this is wrong. You're just fantasizing about murdering the president. And you know what? She was right. She was absolutely right. And I didn't give her the support that she deserved at the time. Fast forward to today. And Laura, who was banned from Twitter, what was it, just before Thanksgiving, banned off Twitter, latest in a long line of, and you don't get banned, by the way, because of how right-wing you are. You get banned because of how effective you are. So if you're popular, persuasive, and successful, that's what puts you in the crosshairs, not whether you're whether a Nazi. There's plenty of Nazis still on Twitter, self-avowed Nazis with big followings. What gets you banned is how popular you are and how effective you are. If you're safe, if they're not afraid of you, that's when you get to play in big arenas, you get the New York Times profiling you, and you get to stay on Twitter because they're not afraid of you, because they know that ultimately when push comes to shove, you will vote the right way, as it were. You know, it's kind of like they'll tolerate you because they know that when it comes down to it, you'll vote the right way. In a sense, it's like, we'll let Jordan Peterson provide this counterweight because we know we need it. And if we don't have somebody, it's going to be bad for us. But when it comes down to it, when something's really on the line, you know, he'll say he doesn't like Trump, which of course he's done a bajillion times. But more importantly, like the Supreme Court stuff, I don't mean to go on about Jordan Peterson, but the Supreme Court thing, this was the literal apotheosis. It was the apex. It was the zenith of every reason he's famous, every reason he has a platform, every reason he exists, you know, the chaotic feminine versus the ordering masculine, blah, blah, blah. What does he choose to do? Believe all women, right? It was so mental, and his thrashing around explanations just, I'm sorry, if you still view him precisely the same after not just seeing that, you know, they always say it's not the crime but the cover-up. After that tweet, and then his pathetic, ludicrous attempt to explain why he might have tweeted it, which persuaded absolutely nobody. I'm not saying don't be a fan of him, because he does lots of good things and says lots of good things. Ultimately, I think his philosophy has a horrible vacuum at the heart of it, and I don't think it's ever going to take you anywhere. But he says lots of perfectly good things, and I love watching him, you know, outfox the mentals. But if you see him precisely the same as you did before that Kavanaugh tweet, then you're either an idiot or you're not being honest with yourself or with us. I forgot what my point was. What was I saying?
Laura Loomer.
Oh, yes. She's fabulous. No, Laura has, I don't know how I got onto that. I'm obviously so desperate. Something in my subconscious is like, you know, no, we talk about bitterness, John. I'm not bitter because I don't, you know, I'm not bitter because I have love in my life, but I'm also not bitter or whatever because I have been the biggest and I will again be the biggest. And I'm enjoying this period of being able to describe myself as a former celebrity or a recovering icon, because I think it's very becoming. And I know I'll be fine in the long run, like I'm good. But the reason I don't envy these people, and I'm not speaking out of sour grapes, is I don't want their lives. There is nothing about being Shapiro or Peterson or poor, sweet Down syndrome Dave Rubin. There's nothing I want about, you know, from any of their lives, because they're not happy. Laura, on the other hand, has found some joy in doing something that I think is a high calling, is a sort of almost like it's a moral imperative. She has found joy in making the left's life utterly miserable. She's the one who confronted Michael Avenatti and made him lose his temper just before he was arrested for domestic abuse. Did she make him mad enough that he went home and beat somebody up? If so, sorry for the woman, but she kind of did us all a favor, didn't she? Laura Loomer's also, no, I mean, I'm joking, but I'm not. Laura Loomer also is the one who made Alyssa Milano disavow the leaders of the Women's March. Finally.
Well, that's why she got kicked off Twitter.
Because she became effective. Laura's having a bit of a moment at the moment.
Yeah.
That's why they took her out when they did. And look, slippery fucks doing it the day before Thanksgiving. And it's like they don't just do the terrible shit they do, but they do it in the most obviously mean, venal, vindictive, everything that you expect a fulminating, frothing, right-wing crazy to say about them, they do. And those journalists who are still defending them. I read a piece in Mashable that was like, it was crowing. It was openly crowing. Was so happy about Laura being booted off Twitter. And I thought to myself, you are the perfect example, you fucking halfwit, you brainless dweeb, blogging from, some bedsit you share with 4 other people in Romford in London or in some terrible shithole in Oregon. You are the perfect example of somebody who thinks the crocodile will eat them last. You are an appeaser. And that, I'm sorry to say, is exactly what Jordan Peterson became. Sorry to bang on. I promise I won't mention him again. But it's exactly what he became with the Me Too movement. He became an appeaser. He said Kavanaugh should take the thing and then resign. And then he said because he thought it might encourage the left to be nicer to us. Is he out of his mind? Has he forgotten everything that he's ever learned? No, of course not. He was just showing his true colors. When something doesn't make sense logically, it's because it's revealing a truth that is coming from a drive that runs deeper in us and that is more fundamental to us than our higher logic and our higher brain functions. It is coming from some atavistic essential need. And in Peterson's case, it's the need to be liked. He needs above everything else, to be liked. And now it seems he's moving into this period where he wants to be liked more by Hollywood than by his own fans. And I'm happy to sit tight and watch that happen. Laura, on the other hand, has never minded being unpopular or embarrassing herself. And that sometimes means catapulting herself into embarrassment, but it also means being braver than the rest of us. And so you fast forward from the Caesar thing, which I wish I had I wish I'd praised her more highly, because I was asked on the biggest radio show in New York with a huge listener, a huge audience, what I thought of it the following morning. And to my great shame, I said, well, I can't deny I enjoyed watching it, but I wouldn't do it myself. And I just wish that, we wouldn't sink to the tactics of the left. I think we're better than that, blah, blah, blah. And that was wrong. That was complete bullshit. I should have said, fuck yeah, I'm going tonight. That's what I ought to have done, and I didn't. And I'm sorry that I didn't. And I'm sorry to Laura that I didn't. I've told her that. Anyway, fast forward to today. And she has, from being banned from Twitter, she's waited until after Thanksgiving, which is obviously really smart. She's waited until after Thanksgiving, and then she's chained herself to the door of Twitter's New York office with a sign, which, first of all, she's got a yellow Jewish star, like
that was the best part.
Third Reich style yellow Jewish star, because of course one of the reasons she also got banned was for the tweet that it seems kicked it all off, that was like the last straw for Twitter. Twitter, of course, whose majority I don't know if he's a majority investor, but he is the largest stockholder. Prince, is it Al Walid bin Tali? I forget their crazy, stupid Saudi names, but it's Prince Al Walid something. He's the big investor guy who was previously the rival to MBS. Mohammed bin Salman, who's the crown prince who runs everything now, who's successfully manipulated the West into thinking he's a reformer because he lets women drive cars. His sort of previous rival, I think it's Al Walid bin I'm so sorry, I don't remember the name. I'm terrible with names. But anyway, this guy he owns more stock in Twitter than Jack Dorsey does. Saudi Arabian royal family, of course, major funders of terrorism everywhere, blah, blah, blah. So Laura touches the third rail of Twitter, which is Sharia non-compliance, and criticizes Ilhan, the incoming first Muslim congresswoman, for having supported female genital mutilation, which she did. This is what gets a bit of it. Anyway, so Laura's got this Third Reich era yellow star. I don't know if she went as far as to put Juden on it or if it just said Jew, but she's also holding a sign. And can you remember what the sign was? So amazing. The sign said something like, can you remember what it was, Chadwick? It was like anti-Jew, no problem. Nosy Jew banned.
And there's a picture of her.
And it is nosy Jew with a y'all know. Y'all know.
It was really funny.
Nosy Jew. Y'all know. She had a picture. Nosy Jew with a picture of herself banned, and it was so funny. And what's great at the beginning of this video, like 500,000 people viewed just one casual live stream of this. She had some people working with her who ran up on step ladders and posted her profile, the tweet that got her banned, above the door on Twitter in such a way that they needed to they would have needed to get like a crew in to remove it and whatever. And then she handcuffed herself to one of the doors and just was out there with a loudspeaker for hours. And
the best part, she was banned from Twitter, obviously. She was the #1 trending topic on Twitter in the US for hours today. And I think number 2 in the whole world. So she's kicked off Twitter and she immediately becomes the #1 trending topic because of this.
And you've got to understand that Twitter took a new direction with this today, which I thought was interesting. So previously they just will suppress all criticism of their company. So if a hashtag starts to take off that's related to a Twitter negatively in some way, they will never let it trend. But they took a different approach today, and they told the police, we have no intention of pressing charges. We're happy to let her protest for as long as she wants outside. And it's interesting because no big corporation, I think, would ever be smart enough to allow that. They'd be like, oh no, the sight of it is too damaging to the brand. But on the one hand, it's sort of smart of them, but on the other, it's really fucking sinister because you know why? Big multinational corporations are afraid of their brand, afraid for their brand image for a reason. They have competitors. They have other people who will buy shit from other businesses if people start to think negatively of them. Twitter is a monopolist. It falls afoul of dozens of antitrust principles, not to mention laws, and it is a publisher masquerading as a platform that routinely and systematically applies grotesque political bias. No prominent liberal of the stature of me or Roger Stone or Gavin or Laura has been banned from Twitter. All they've started doing recently is cracking down on people who don't believe in the trans orthodoxy, which you would expect from a company that's based in San Francisco. But this is almost like Twitter management has said, yeah, go crazy with the trans thing because they know nobody cares. Mm-hmm. Nobody gives a shit about transsexuals. Nobody cares about trannies. It's like we know that this will annoy the right and fire up the left, but ultimately nobody really cares about this. So let's start banning feminists. Aha, see, aren't we even-handed? And it's not really about politics, it's about abuse. We'll start banning feminists who don't toe the line when it comes to trans orthodoxy so that they can claim that they're not discriminating politically. Whilst at the same time, just sort of like smugly telling to the police, well, she can protest if she wants. Like, we're happy, we'll leave her out there. Knowing that obviously after 5 hours, she's just really going to need a slash. And she's going to ask to be cut free.
Well, but also there was, because can you imagine the headlines if Twitter had banned Laura Loomer and then threw her in jail? I mean, that their hands are tied. There's no way they could have.
Well, no, I don't think that's true because you've got oil companies and all the rest of it will have protesters removed and imprisoned. But the thing is, Twitter. The reason I find it interesting is I did think of this, but Twitter could have relied upon the support of the majority of the press. Even though the press is 5 years behind the rest of us, starting to get a bit skeptical of technology in general and social media in particular, because Laura is so easily caricatured as a joke figure, because she does these things nobody else wants to or will dare to, God love her, she's easily caricatured as a nutcase. So I think Twitter could have relied upon backup from the press that she was a nutcase, and all the story would have been, which they would have briefed, and I think this is the way that it would have been written up. Right-wing conspiratorial lunatic handcuffs herself to whatever and is taken away. And I think it would simply have fed into a narrative of like, oh, well, she's just like another Alex Jones, like lunatics who peddling conspiracy theories. And of course, we had to remove her because she was, causing a public disturbance, just like we would anybody else. I think they could have got away with it, and I think the press would have backed them up on this. The press is not going to back them up on everything, but I think the press hates Laura Loomer a lot more than it likes Twitter. Excuse me, a lot more than it dislikes Twitter. It hates Laura Loomer a lot more than it's skeptical of Twitter. Particularly the kind of, remember also, the coverage is completely shaped by the first wave of journalists who get involved. So, for instance, technology journalists from Engadget, The Verge, all the rest of it, what they say heavily informs the way that the New York Times might eventually report on the story were something dramatic to happen, right? And I think that the Twitter could have relied on the favor, the good graces of those journalists, because, like I said, those journalists hate the internet right way more than they're suspicious of Twitter. Why? Because as a, I've got to remember where I read this, and I think it was The Atlantic, and it was it was The Atlantic or New Republic or something. It was this anxious, soul-searching piece that came out recently. It's like, Democrats have all the younger voters, so why is the right winning the meme wars? Why are they so much better on the internet? It's like, because we can crack a fucking joke and not be terrified of showing up to college the next day and being like expelled from FemSoc. Because no, for real, it's like we can say, like he looks like a tit in a wig without risking our entire without risking our entire, careers in progressive media. So I think what they did was a little bit brave, a little bit smart, but mostly just a lot sinister, because I think it just demonstrated their utter complacency and, more importantly and specifically, their monopoly position. Right, yeah. Because Twitter has to fight a general arc war. It doesn't have to win on individual battles, because normally, I think in the market economy, individual battles can move the needle, and that needle might be enough to swing companies in and out of profitability from like one quarter to the next. But when you own all discussion of a particular kind in a particular place, in a particular sort of public square, the general impression of you're insulated from ordinary market forces. That's the whole point of being a monopoly. People can say bad things about you, but all that really matters is the general consensus of your core, profitable, powerful users. And Twitter's core, profitable, powerful users are liberals who hate Laura Loomer. So I don't know that they would have been risking anything by having her removed. I think it was
just the optics of she had her speech silenced digitally.
It wouldn't have been them removing her. It would have been the police, because it was made clear in the reporting that it would have been NYPD that removed her. So they could have, because police forces. I've dealt with so many police forces. The police, not the officers, but the frontline frontline police officers love me. One of my biggest constituents, my fan constituent, I think it's probably true of a lot of fun conservatives, is the armed forces and the police. It's probably like 20% of my fan base. So I talk to a lot of them about stuff like this, and they would not have responded if Twitter had just outright lied and said, "Oh, NYPD moved her on because she was making a breach of the peace," and all that you would have seen was the police moving her, not not Twitter security or anything. So I just don't know about that. I think that it was I think it was a flex. I think it was a power play. And I think that they're in a position where they can make those kinds of flexes. And I think that's obviously sad and miserable.
Well, there's an interesting thing they did today, which I've never seen them do. Do you know CJ Pearson? He's that.
He's like a 5-year-old black guy.
Right, yeah. So he tweeted something in support of Loomer, and then they disabled his account. They locked him out. And then he was brought back in a little while later, and Twitter comms released a statement being like, we made an error with CJ Pearson and realized, basically they said they closed his account because they thought he was under 13, and then they found out he was 16, because you can't be, I think 13 is the age to join Twitter. But Twitter comms, like the official Twitter PR account, released a statement naming him about, because they were so freaked out. Maybe they were freaked out, or maybe not, I don't know. But everyone was losing their minds, like that, believing that he had been kicked off because of showing support for Loomer.
Well, perhaps they didn't want it all to sort of escalate and to spiral out of control. So they were like, "Oh well, you know, black 17-year-old. We best sort that one out."
Right. Yeah.
It's easy, but here's the thing. You know, it's easy to be magnanimous in victory, and if you think you've won, it doesn't cost you anything to be gracious and to concede. If you know, like if you've conquered France, it doesn't cost you anything to sort of give away Normandy. Right? Doesn't cost it. You know, it doesn't matter to you because you've won the war. I think it's what
I'm gonna take a leak, but you should read out these super chats and make sure.
I was literally just about to do that, so I'm so glad you're leaving.
I'll be back in a second.
Fine. I'm gonna try to start from the bottom. Is it the 28th today? No, it's just it's the 30th now. But okay, so let's start with the 29th ones. Oh, I think this is dated for whatever. Let me read down from the most recent. Sorry if that upsets anybody. Let me find them. So JP Scott Brown, thank you for the donation, Scott. So JP expresses one ill-formed. This is a good question, actually. So JP expresses one ill-formed opinion on Twitter, and that changes everything. One from you. We're here tonight because you messed up too. But one ill-conceived tweet, and Jordan Peterson's changed. Do you see the hypocrisy in that? Well, no, because what I was seeking to show in the piece that I wrote about Jordan Peterson is that these slips. It's not just one slip. It's a pattern of folding when the going gets tough. And I think that what I've demonstrated is the opposite, which has been very damaging to me. I have lost everything by not saying what people have told me to say and want me to say. There are people out there, I'm in the process of rebuilding it all now, but there are people out there who are perfectly happy to take the check and say, with all force and enthusiasm and apparent self-belief, to reflect the opinions of their investors, their donors, and all the rest of it. People who give money to me know that I'll say what the fuck I like. And that's what they like about me, because they know that the general trajectory of Milo is in a good, positive, wholesome direction. We haven't even spoken about God in this live stream, and we won't at all, because it's a completely different kind of subject. But the sorts of things that I was talking to you about earlier when I mentioned the show treatment, you know, limited government and gun rights and all the rest of it, people know that I really believe this stuff. And really believing that stuff and fighting for it has almost destroyed me. It has cost me millions of dollars of my money. It has cost me millions of dollars of other people's money. It has ruined my reputation. It has had me branded a white supremacist, even though I'm married to an African American. It has had me branded an apologist for child abuse, even though I'm in fact a victim of clerical sexual abuse. And I have withstood all of this, and I have worn all of this, and I am still fucking standing. And I'm happy to weather, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they throw at me next, because I won't say things that I don't believe in. My charge against Jordan Peterson is that he says the right things when it's easy, and he crumbles when it's hard. And I like to think that I've not been the opposite exactly, but I have got myself into immeasurably expensive and damaging trouble because I won't just say what my agent, my publicist, my investor, my employees, my CEO, all of them are telling me to say. And I won't do it because it isn't how I feel. It isn't what I believe. And I know it's not the truth. And I just won't fucking do it. And that's, you know, like that thing with the, I sent privately to 2 journalists. I didn't publish it. I just sent it. So 2 journalists asked me for comment about 2 different stories. Just before all those journalists got shot somewhere, I don't even remember what it was, by some lunatic who was unhappy with coverage in the paper. About 2 days prior to that, I had said privately, in private communications, one in text and one in email, I'd made jokes along the same lines that Sam Hyde had done about, you know, journalists getting murdered or whatever. I don't think I said murdered, obviously. I think I just said I can't wait for the right-wing death squads to to start roaming the streets for journalists. Something so obviously over the top and fictitious and ludicrous. I was like, even American journalists can't possibly think I'm being serious because it was so over the top. And I didn't think anything else of it. And then suddenly these two journalists are teaming up on Twitter to pretend that I had made threats to them. I was like, bitch, really? Come the fuck on. And then, of course, some idiot goes and shoots up a bunch of journalists. And suddenly for 24 hours, there are 500,000 tweets that say, see, Marley Yiannopoulos says shoot journalists. Someone's gone and shot journalists. Deport him. Turned out, nothing to do with me. Guy had never heard of me. Nothing to do with me at all. All that's it. But when I was asked to apologize for it, I said, oh, no, I regret nothing. I'm not apologizing. It was a joke. It was a private joke. The sentiment of that joke is something that half the country probably agrees with. They all fucking hate you as well. No, I'm not apologizing. I regret nothing. And that cost me, I probably shouldn't tell you this because it's going to upset a lot of people who work with me and for me, but that cost me a big deal. It cost me a lot of money from somebody who was waiting to cut me a check and do a deal with me, who wouldn't and didn't because I refused to apologize for that. I'm just like, I'm not going to apologize for making a crazy, stupid joke privately that those journalists then chose to make public, pretending that I'd made a death threat to journalists when I'd literally just texted back a joke saying, can't wait for the right-wing death squads, like just as a way of saying, fuck off, go away, don't bother me, I'm not interested in helping you. And then, of course, events conspired to make it, very ill-timed. But I won't apologize for something that I didn't do wrong. Sorry. What time is it? This is at 2 a.m. dribble. No, it's only 1 a.m. Goodness. No, I was taking a glug mid-peroration. I was reaching a climax and I started dribbling, as is often the case. I just would not apologize for something that I had not done wrong. And that is a pattern of behavior that I'm not ever going to start apologizing for things I haven't done wrong. I'm just going to not hand people as much ammo in the future, I think, and confine I think that the way for me to win, the way for me to do what I do best and to stay alive and to stay successful and to build a big platform again where I can do our collective enemy serious justice is for me to take my fury, my frustration, my exasperation, my sense of humor, my waspishness, my bitchy nature, and to channel it into this product once a week. And to, if I'm really annoyed sufficiently by something, turn it into a character, or make a sketch about it, or do a rant about it where if people misquote me, they're like, well, what else did he say? And they have to play the full 3 minutes, or it's like, okay, well, we'll go check it out ourselves, or we don't believe you. And that it might be funny that at the age of 33, 34, I'm only just learning that lesson now, but I only really kind of got myself straightened out and got my career sorted at the age of 30 anyway. So maybe I'm running 10 years behind everybody else, but I'm a late bloomer. I am finally now coming around to the realization that the smart thing for me to do, the way for me to best be a powerful weapon for you guys, for the people listening to this, the way for me to inflict serious damage on the people that we all hate is to recast them, to reimagine them as characters from which they can't escape. Christine Blasey Ford has not been seen on the public stage since she failed to get Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation derailed, with the result that I can now create any version of her that I like. So I looked at her and I thought, well, what are the things that strike me about this person based just solely on the Senate testimony? I was like, I've read a bunch of other shit, but I was look at the Senate testimony. What am I struck by? I'm struck by how disheveled she looks. I'm struck by the weird, coquettish, girly voice that I presume she's putting on. I mean, nobody can speak like that at that age in real life, surely. I'm struck by how, did you notice how smeared up her glasses were? Like her glasses were covered in what looked like a film of Vaseline. It was like if you'd picked up your spectacles with your thumb on the lens for 40 years, it still wouldn't be as filthy as Christine Blasey Ford's glasses that were just like, they just had this like film of gunk on it, like somebody just come on the lenses. Presumably not. What else? I thought that some of her mannerisms were interesting. I thought that she, the asking for caffeine, some of the emphasis. So I took those 3 or 4 things that I noticed about her, that I identified in her, and I made them the whole character, because I thought that those tics and habits, some of which were obviously her, and some of which she was doing for the day, doing on the day in front of the Senate. I thought that they together represented everything I didn't like about this woman and everything I thought was suspect about this woman. And more generally, more broadly, they represented everything that I thought was suspicious about the movement that had created this moment where allegations that not only had no justification, no evidence, no substantiation, no, whatever, but were even categorically denied by like the best friend of the person, nonetheless came so astonishingly close to derailing a Supreme Court appointment. This was something sick in our culture. It was something that was wrong with us. We had gone as a culture. We had made some kind of horrible mistake, and so I tried to pull out these characteristics of her and make them into this comedy persona, which I felt reflected a lot of people's concerns and anxieties and suspicions of her and the Me Too movement generally. And people seem to like the character, so I'm going to definitely keep her alive. I'm going to try to I'm going to keep her. I'm going to say this because I know it was never going to happen anyway, and I know that this won't derail it happening because they never would have let me do it anyway. But the sort of thing I'd like to do now is take, because she fits in a handbag. Dr. Christine fits in a blue handbag. I want to sort of like take her into the White House press briefing room, and she only takes about 5 minutes to put on. It's just some tits and a wig, really, and just sort of like saunter up in the White House press briefing room and try to ask a question. I would never be able to get away with that. So because it's just having been there and done it, I know what the gatekeeping mechanisms are there, and I know that it would never be like, you go through the secret security scanner and you've got a wig in your bag, and they're going to be like, nah. So that's not going to work. But I could show up to other kinds of press conferences and stuff. So I'm going to keep that character alive. I thought it was a good way to do it, and I think that is the best way to do it. So to get back to it, I give the most amazingly long answers to very simple questions. I think that what I do is blisteringly and uncomfortably honest to the point that it becomes damaging to me and doesn't even hit the target sometimes, because I just have no self-control when it comes to like making certain jokes. I mean, Instagram and Facebook made me take down jokes that I made about the pipe bomber. So, but they didn't make me take down a long 20-minute comedy bit which involved those jokes. And there is a difference, and I think it's a difference of like self-control, baiting, trolling, whatever. I can be way more effective and way funnier and actually much meaner and more brilliant and waspish and whatever if I just take a breath. And if it's really annoying me again the next day, turn it into a character, turn it into something. Because the thing is, I'm judged by different rules from everybody else. I can't make the same jokes that Ann Coulter can make and be fine. We're both New York Times bestselling authors. We both have a couple of million followers across our various platforms. An entire chapter of her book, the latest one, is it in Trump? No, it's not in Trump. It's Resistance is Futile. The last chapter of Resistance is Futile is entirely about journalists dying. She has this extended comedic fantasy about the New York Times editorial board committing suicide. And this is something she's been doing in her talks as well. And it's brilliant and it's great. And I'm like, oh, that's so much smarter than I came up with. I hate you so much. And then I have to see her next Thursday. I'm like, I loved it. It was really good. Yeah.
Was that
No, no,
a 20-minute answer to one super chat question?
don't question me.
God, you talked to. I just texted our friend Tom. And I said he talks too fucking much. I need to go to bed. But no,
No,
go
but I think I talk just the right amount, and you can sit there until I'm done with you. All right, I'm going to go through some questions. Okay, glad to see you coming back. God bless. Thank you so much. Thank you, David Baseman. Thank you, Casey Diamond, for your contribution. Callum Watts, love your work, man. Can't wait to see you in Melbourne at the start of next year. Do one thing for me, keep smiling. Love from Australia. Thank you, Callum. I am, and I do. And as bad as things have got, and as terrible as things have been for me, and they've been really fucking awful. I haven't stopped smiling, and partly that's a result of the guy who's upstairs asleep. It's also partly, although I would never say so to him privately because he might think I'm, was paying him a compliment. Partly due to Chadwick being a great friend and confidant and adult in the room sometimes, but it's also because I know I'm fucking right, and I know we have to beat them. And you know what? When you go from nobody to being on Bill Maher in the space of 14 months. And then you get hit and hit and hit and hit and hit. And I'm not back to where I started by any stretch of the imagination. I'm well over half of the way from where I started. I'm just not quite there anymore. Yeah, it is disconcerting and whatever, but it doesn't mean that I'm not happy. I am happy. It just means that sometimes I can I don't know how to say it really, because I'm not the kind of person that would ever, far too British to ever talk about mood or depression or, admit that I have benefited from speaking to someone or whatever. I have had therapists in my life, but never for very long because I haven't needed them because it's just been pointless. Because it's not really, that whole American oversharing thing is very uncomfortable for me because I'm a British person and we just just get on with it, stiff upper lip. There have been dark moments, not dark stretches, but there have been dark moments where I have thought, a year ago, I met a man who loves me. I bought him a beautiful car. We set up a lovely life. And now I've been machine gunned to death by people on the basis of total lies. And my life now, financially and in some other ways, doesn't really resemble my life before. And it's funny because in 2 weeks' time, I have to go to London to go to, the society event of Europe. It's like the coolest party to get invited to. I can't tell you anything more about it because it would be too indiscreet. But the people who secretly love me are so innumerate from the top to the bottom. But it's very difficult for people to kind of publicly come out and defend me because they're going to be asked to defend everything I've ever said. So I've given up on ever having those, that public backup because I'm not that kind of figure, and that's fine. But there have been some dark moments where I've thought, did they win? Did they beat me? Should I quit? And then I thought to myself, what the fuck else am I going to do? No one's going to employ me to do anything. It's like, can you imagine being me wandering into Borders and asking for a job? So he's like, what the hell else am I going to do? We best just carry on. So I've never seriously considered giving up. I haven't. I have had some dark moments, but I come out of them very quickly. And what I realized, and this is wrapped up in the project I want to do, and it's wrapped up in my whole life philosophy. I have learned that the thing that the bad guys hate more than anything else is the sound of laughter. They hate being laughed at. They hate being made fun of. They hate ridicule. They especially hate it when you really take the time to do it properly. So I'm not prepared to give them the satisfaction. Why would I quit when I'm having so much fun, even if there are occasional dark moments? I mean, my God, everybody who's funny, everybody who's in any way like me, all the people that I look up to and admire are all people who have that little shard of, darkness, self-doubt, whatever, in there. It's just something I have to manage. And there have been dark moments, but I'm never not smiling for more than an hour or two. I might have a moment where I'm like, fuck. I have no idea how I'm going to pay for anything for the next 6 months. this is a mess, and I'm lost. And I have had those moments, and I continue to have those moments, but I'm not prepared to let them become more than 0.5%. And I'm not prepared to let those dark moments of self-doubt dictate the course of my life. And I am fundamentally a happy person. I am constitutionally a happy person. I'm joyful. And I go through life with joy. And I have love in my life, but I also have, again, we won't talk about God today, but if there's one thing I could say in favor of religion, which won't turn you all off, it's this. They hate capitalism. They hate free speech. They hate property rights. They hate the rule of law. They hate all of the things that make society great. There's one thing they hate more than anything else, and it's the thing they went for first. And they did it when either none of you were alive, or none of you remember, or maybe there's some people who do. The thing they went for before any of that stuff, it wasn't capitalism. It wasn't a freedom of expression. It wasn't national sovereignty. It wasn't. The thing they went for first was religion. The thing they went for first was God. First was Christianity, not just any religion, but Christianity specifically. And in some of the conversations that I hope we're going to have on YouTube in the coming couple of months, and some, because I think maybe this is the place for us to do more serious, substantial, long-form talks, and then the show will just do the whatever. We can dissect things, and you can tell me that you thought stuff was shit or whatever. There's a reason they came for God first. And you don't have to be Christian to figure out what it is. And I'm going to tell you, I have some thoughts on that. I'm going to tell you in future live streams what I think it is. And therefore, it's not difficult to figure out what it is that Christianity gives a society that's so valuable. And that makes those societies that are ultimately derived from Judeo-Christian principles such cultural superiority over Muslim countries, over pagan civilization, over the entire rest of the world. The places that Christianity has been and has taken root are the nice places. And it's because they're the places people treat one another the best. And you don't have to be a Christian to see and to understand and to agree that this particular system of belief is the one that makes people behave the best to one another. Out of all the ones we have, atheism, everything, people are nicer to each other when they're Christian. And we'll talk about this another day because I don't want to get drawn into it. But that and John and the certainty of my mission is what has kept me happy and joyful and kept a smile on my face. And that was a 20-minute answer to the question. And that was worth waiting for. So you can shut up. Chadwick, not you guys. Let me just see if there's anybody who's said anything in the meantime. No, okay, so does Milo pee sitting or standing? Sitting. Although my mother told me the best thing. What? Is that funny?
No, I saw that question too. I was looking forward to the answer.
No, well, my mother always told me two things in life. Don't let anybody tell you what to do, and don't sit down in public urinals, like in public toilets. So I have to put a lot of paper down and do some scrubbing. But I do still sit because I like to text, and I don't want to. You know, the other thing is when you're famous, people try to look at your dick a lot. I realized this when I was on tour, because students in particular, because they're always drunk and always trying it on. When you're famous, people are constantly trying to look at your dick. So if you're in the urinal no, it's true. If you're in a urinal, like a student thing, you'll see people with camera phones pretending to take selfies and then like doing this. And you're just like, dude, you want to suck it? It's here. Like, what the fuck? And they don't. They just want a picture. Anyway, so shit like that is another reason I always use cubicles. $75. It keeps saying $1.99. Oh, Nanette, aren't you a one? A glorious, amusing Nanette. Jesse Lucuma Milo, I'm a pattern maker and a fabulous seamstress. Do you want any costumes or clothing done? I'm an ex-Nike employee turned stay-at-home wife. Fuck yes. Right, Jesse Lukuma, I'm sure you're still listening. Email me, milo@dangerous.com, and put seamstress in the subject line, and we'll talk, because I've got a lot of characters coming up. Oh my God, Milo, collab with PewDiePie, please. I like him. I think he's cool. And I think he's actually a lot more woke than he's letting on. Cage342, thank you for the generous donation. Love you so much, Milo. I supported your site since the beginning. Continue to support you any way I can. More of a question request. Will you remember that we all support you in the coming days and blow us kisses? I will, and better than that, although you may not welcome this, I don't know anything about you, so I don't like to presume, but I will also remember you in my prayers, if that means anything to you. Scott Brown, also a very generous donation, thank you. What happened to you was wrong on every level. Yeah, it was, which is why we can't let them win, which is why we have to keep going. Josh Fairlam, thank you very much for the donation. Zach, Actifacti. Scott Brown, we dealt with already earlier. Anonymous Milo, watch Sticks and Hammer 666, best political YouTuber. Yeah, I like him too. I have seen some of his stuff. Roy Earl, Milo, have you noticed how Joe Rogan has essentially dissociated himself from Alex Jones, refuses to have him on his podcast? Also, please come to Toronto. We talked about this a bit yesterday. Joe Rogan has gone very safe, and it's because, sorry to say, he has a lot of celebrity friends. Oh, I know what I meant to say earlier, Chadwick. Maybe because I remember saying, I think maybe you have a view on this, and then I got distracted. The people I really like who talk for a living tend to be the people who don't have a lot of celebrity friends. They could if they wanted, and they have a lot probably behind the scenes privately, but they're not people who go to premieres, they're not on the circuit. And I'm thinking of people like Howard Stern and Wendy Williams. Very different. Howard Stern was obviously a hell-raising shock jock, like whatever, god of radio. What does he call himself? King of all media. Wendy Williams, a mess, but massive audience. Neither of them is really on the circuit, on the celebrity circuit. And the reason that they have both given for this in different ways at different times is that it means they can say whatever they want about whoever they want, because they don't get compromised by friendships. And I've always thought that was a really nice way to live, because one of the things that I see happening with the Heathers, which is my name for, if you've seen that movie, you'll understand that my name for the sort of Shapiro-Peterson contingent. Sorry, no offense, but it's true.
He involved me on Twitter recently.
Australian viewers will know Australian viewers will understand when I say sorry, no offense, but it's true. No, he's. They have.
You're terrible, viewer.
No, it's just I'm sad because that's the only impression I'm not going to be able to do myself, and we're not only going to have to hire a Downs kid for it, but we're going to have to have like all kinds of like health and safety regulation. I mean, I don't know what the rules are about getting disabled actors in, but I'm pretty sure it's expensive, and there's a lot of paperwork. But I don't know anybody who could play Dave Rubin better than, just somebody who repeats everything that's said to them and then just goes, "Can I have a hug now?" Isn't that how it is? Isn't that, it's just like, he just repeats what the previous guest like last week said to the new guest, like he just came up with it. We said this yesterday. That's the character, isn't it? That's the whole show. It's just a kid who goes, and then it just repeats what the person said. They can never hug now. That's it. Dave Rubin is walking down. Is walking downs. Let's call him. Let's call him Downs Rubin. What is that?
God, you're awful.
I'm sorry, but this is just how my brain works. I'm just like, so what's funny about it, and how do I spin it out into the extreme maximalist, like comedic excess? And with him, all I can think of is somebody just going, "Have a hug now." That's just how my brain is. I'm good at zeroing in on detail and magnifying it out to comic extremes. It's one of my great gifts, and it's how I can. Right, anyway, let's go back to questions. Jesus. Yeah, Joe Rogan going soft. He has a lot of famous friends. I like people who don't have famous friends. I like people who go home to their. It's like Wendy Williams has a show in New York, huge audience, blah blah blah. After she's finished filming, she hops in the car and she's driven home to her husband in New Jersey, and she probably has friends locally. I would imagine she has many of the same friends she had at school, or at least a couple. Plus, if you think people she's picked up over the years, and otherwise she just, she's like, she doesn't hang out with celebrities. She's never at the parties. She doesn't have many celebrity friends, though she could perfectly easily have if she wanted. And she and Howard Stern, and I think Joan Rivers was probably the same. I don't know that she had very many very close celebrity friends, because I know a lot of people who knew Joan Rivers very well. And she obviously had a couple. She was friends, for instance, with Judge Judy. We can imagine why. They probably just had each other in stitches all day long. But I don't think she had that many, quote unquote, entertainment industry, Hollywood celebrity friends. And I can see why. I can understand. And it enables you to be whoever you want to be and say whatever you want without worrying that you're going to see their brother at a party that night. And so you don't become Ellen, who's the best example of the opposite end of the spectrum, who would never say anything that would potentially upset a future guest if that person is famous and powerful, which is what makes Ellen's show so dull and dreadful, and what makes Wendy's kind of exciting to watch, because she's a mess, but you never know what she's going to say. And Howard Stern, of course, his reputation speaks for itself.
But there's such a level of celebrity too that it speaks to their character, that there's like a certain type of celebrity that just hates other celebrities, and they just want to be around normal people. And
that is me. That is me. That is me.
I'm not always. I know lots of celebrities, and I have for a while, even before I, met you.
Well,
it's so few of them that you actually like as human beings, and they can kind of spot the people who aren't impressed by celebrity, and they want to be around those people more. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, you won't know this, but when you start to become successful,
thanks.
You begin to. Just kidding. I think it's a question of character, and it's like, why did Robin Williams kill himself? Can it be unconnected to the fact that he was obviously damaged, but a sensitive, loving soul working in an industry full of monsters who fuck kids?
Yeah.
Probably not. Why do people that I intuit are nice people leave Hollywood? Why did Halle Berry move to Paris to get away from Hollywood? Why did she do that? She didn't have to do that. She could have had the world, and she chose not to. Why do these people, who I sort of instinctively sense are good people, remove themselves dramatically and geographically from this world? Well, I think I know. I also know a lot of very famous people in Hollywood who have stayed there, their houses are still there, but who don't hang out with anyone anymore because they find that whole world too monstrous. So anyway, I like people like that. I think I'm one of them, and I think if you ever achieve any professional success, Chadwick, will probably end up very, very similar. Jordan Peterson was Joe Rogan today. Did you watch it? No, because I can't imagine what new thing Jordan Peterson has to say. I mean, has he said anything new or different in the last 18 months? I don't know. Sorry, but did you read the poem I sent last night? Yes, I did, and I didn't send it back. Oh my goodness, somebody sent me a poem last night. They wrote, and I read it, and I liked it. I enjoyed it, and I didn't send you comments on it because today's been crazy. But what I did do, however, is I saw that you sent me another email that said either A, you didn't read my poem, or B, whatever, and I didn't get any further in it, but I left it open. And so that's on my pile of emails to respond to tomorrow. So thank you for the reminder, but you were going to get a response anyway. And thank you for sending it. I thought it was great. Scott Brown, is this the same Scott Brown? Yes, it's the same Scott Brown from the Jordan Peterson question. So let's see. He's going to ask me something tough again. Dude, what happened to you was wrong. The insinuation that Peter was Holden wrong. Don't do the same to JP with his daughter. It's out of context. I know JP. He spoke highly of you in Philly. Don't be like the people who hurt you. You're on the same side. Jordan Peterson. Okay, so I'm prepared as I think that you have to be as somebody with intellectual integrity, I'm prepared to accept the possibility that I may be wrong. I think it's incumbent upon us all to to be that way. I've seen evidence. So let me just tell you something that not a lot of people know. Jordan Peterson called me after that attempted assassination hit job on me in February 2017. And he suggested that we do a couple of hours worth of sit downs where he talks to me about how that experience affected me, why it made me flippant and jokey about serious subjects. Because I think he saw that. I think he saw what happened to me at the hands of that priest as a reason why I'm like I am, right? And this is a classic psychologist's, take a nugget and turn it into the person's whole personality. I don't think there's much value in that, partly because what happened to me was not particularly serious and it wasn't something that really affected my life tremendously. You read the book if you think that's a bit too flippant for you, by the way, diabolical. He's trying to take these nuggets and turn them into an explanation for someone's entire personality, which of course is very Freud, Jung, whatever. It's the tradition from which he springs. But then he started getting popular, really popular. And that's when he stopped replying. And then from having previously explained me very effectively and persuasively and well as a Loki-esque trickster court jester figure who reveals truths through humor, through unsayable knowledge, he then went ahead and in front of the Aspen Festival of Ideas, and I don't think it's a coincidence that it was in front of the wealthiest audience he'd ever spoken to, then said, in response to the New York Times' Barry Weiss, who said, yeah, but Milo's a racist, he responded something like, well, yeah, possibly, and nodded his head, and then followed it up with a clear lie, which was, I haven't followed Milo that closely. Those were his words. But he had. He'd followed me closely enough to come up with this very intelligent, sophisticated, and subtle analysis, by the way, a correct analysis, of what I was attempting to accomplish in culture. Playing the role of Falstaff, if you know Shakespeare, the holy fool, the court jester. Why did he lie? Why did he say something that wasn't true? And the piece that I wrote, Scott, that's also the preface to Vox Day's book, basically says, I think there are two types of chameleon. I think there are the types of chameleon who have the same core message, but who adapt it infinitely for different audiences because they are aware that you can't speak to everybody in the same way, in the same medium all the time. You have to meet people where they are, right? And I think politicians get a bad rap, like Hillary Clinton, when she has a slight Southern accent when she's speaking to a Southern audience. I think she's just a really, really almost sort of sinisterly, like creepily effective. Maybe she was at one point, I don't know. I think she is instinctively code switching, meeting people where they are. She's adopting the mores and mannerisms and speech patterns and idioms and pronunciation of the people she wants to reach, because she's sufficiently flexible and intelligent to understand that you have to, whatever. Those people whose core message stays the same, but who express themselves sometimes through writing, sometimes through music, sometimes through whatever, and sometimes in different genres and formats, and sometimes with very different styles, but whose core message remains constant. These are the people I admire. And in that category, I think like Madonna falls into that category, for instance. But there's another kind of chameleon. There's another kind of shapeshifter. And it's easy, by the way, if you fall into that first category, to be characterized as the sort of person who's insubstantial or unserious, because it looks to the stupid observer, to the low IQ observer, it looks as though you're different things to different people, but you're not. You're just adapting your message and not so adapting your message, but adapting the style of delivery to different audiences. Actually, it's a mark of somebody who's very socially fluent. But there is another kind of chameleon, the kind of chameleon that Jordan Peterson is, whose style stays relatively constant. I mean, he's always dressed in this drab, dreadful Victoriana. He's always got this effeminate, pained, you know, kind of voice. But the things he says change depending on who he's speaking to. And that for me is the difference. And that for me is chilling. And that for me is unacceptable and creepy and terrifying and weird and all that stuff. And this is the place I got to. I was like, why did he lie? I don't believe that people lie for no reason. I don't believe that somebody with Jordan Peterson's obvious intellect is a moron or that forgetful. Why did he lie? And I came to the conclusion that he was a different kind of role player from me. I'm the kind of role player who believes in the same stuff, and I always have. But on college campuses, I might show up in drag. On Fox News, I show up in a shirt and tie. And on these live streams, I'm just like, yo, I'm in my kitchen. Other times, different stuff, whatever. I can ape pretty much any writing style. I can sing if you like. But Jordan Peterson changes what he says, the meaning of his words, although his manner stays the same, depending on who he's speaking to. And that I find unsettling, and that I don't like. And that I think is the big difference between the two of us. And it makes me very uncomfortable. It makes me very unhappy. I don't like seeing it. Let me just try to get through some more super chats because we're up to 1:30, so I've got to try to get through. But Scott, I hope, because I thank you for your generosity, and I hope that explains, at least in part, why let's put it like this, why he makes me uncomfortable. I don't hate him, but I'm also party to a lot of conversations with academics, with authors and with other people who don't feel able to say, because their primary motivator is career self-preservation rather than honesty, although I listen to them anyway because they're sometimes smart. There are lots of people who don't feel able to criticize Jordan Peterson. There aren't many people on the right who will criticize Jordan Peterson from the right. Not many. And that's demented, because we only ever agree with like half or maybe 60% of what another person says. I mean, I would guess that 90 to 95% of my fan base is quite, well, let me clarify that. I've got two big demographic spikes in my fan base, according to the data, right? I've got young men from 15 to 44, and I've got women of 45 to 60. So I've got young disaffected libertarians and conservatives, and I've got the Trump moms and grandmas and mothers who are like, oh, I just want to make sure he's okay, and I want to like bring him back into line, this wayward, prodigal, whatever. These two, I'm going to leave it there. Actually, I'm going to leave it there because I want to do this on another occasion. All right, let me go through to. I'm just going to go to the top again. Autograph picture of you, been a loyal fan since 2015. Never give up and smile. Daniel V561. Send me an email. I'll make that happen. Milo, how much would you have paid to be in the same room as Leslie Jones for 48 hours? Well, I would have paid a lot to not be in the same room as Leslie Jones for 48 hours. Callum, love to buy you a coffee if we cross paths in Melbourne. I will buy you a drink and come find me in Melbourne. As a Canadian, I won't see you here, but how can I spread your word here? We're not all liberals. Just look, I'm so aggressively suppressed on every platform in a way that other people are, but perhaps not to the same extent. You just have to post my shit everywhere all the time if you want anyone to see it, because it's never going to be surfaced by the algorithms. I'm going to go down to try to be where I was before. Rob Payton, thank you so much for joining. Cynthia Merkster, thank you very much for your generosity. Federal Reserve has committed treason. Federal government is illegitimate. I don't know if I think it's illegitimate, but I do think that it should be about a tenth of the size it is. Diego Frisbee, I bought a copy of Despicable and T-shirt in February for $80 from your store. This is exactly what we were talking about earlier in the show. So email. So if you email me at dangerous.com, Milo at dangerous.com, Diego Frisbee, put that in the subject line. I'll take care of you. And go back when you have some time and listen to the beginning of the podcast, and I hope that will answer your questions. SEB, Milo, your new thing should be fearless. Tell the truth, stand your ground, point out the hypocrisy, be firm and funny. I absolutely would. Tommy Lee says, one word, Patreon. Milo, we'd all support you. I've never, and nobody ever really notices this, I guess, because that's just not how America works, really. You have to, I'm quite constitutionally uncomfortable about tooting my own horn in a like, I'll talk endlessly about my own talent and looks with my tongue in my cheek. But when it really comes down to it, I'm quite self-effacing as a Brit. I think we all are. I'm very uncomfortable about Patreon because it just feels to me like paying people for nothing. And maybe I should do it. I don't know. Maybe I'll do it, but tie it to the new show so that I feel like people are actually getting something for the money. Because just the whole social justice, like I'm raising money for my transition, or I got kicked out of home with my mom and now I'm blah, blah, blah. I've never liked crowdfunding on principle, and I would only ever really use it for something that I was completely convinced I couldn't raise the money any other way for. So let me think about it. It just doesn't quite feel right to me because you know why? I don't like conservatives who use Patreon because it's not capitalism. I know that capitalism, of course, when you give people more control of more of their own money, they're able to deploy it, and they do, in charitable ways. And lower taxes mean that people give more to charity. More Republican people, more Christian people always give more to charity. But I just feel like I should be creating a product that people think is worth paying for rather than just accepting handouts. And I don't know, that's just how I've always been. So maybe when the new show is up and running, I'll think about Patreon about the show. Okay, so Fearless, thank you. You're a diamond in the rough. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for some nice compliments. I'm going to go back to what you got here. Short form, confronting social justice warriors and decimating them. The long format, Rogan style isn't for you. Get a camera and interact. Short form, confronting. So yeah, when we do the new show, definitely going to be doing that. Definitely going to be doing a lot more of confronting people in real life. So don't worry. Let me, what else we got here? Cage342, sporting on dangerous since the site first came up. Hope you come talking in Texas sometime soon. I've read this already. Sorry. My question, can you blow us all a kiss? Remember, I will. Did you read the poem I sent last night? We did that. Thank you. I kind of am doing things in a funny order. Sounds like Crowder before he fired Jared and Sven and turned his show into unwatchable shit. Do it. Please go hard toward libertarianism. Hammer home that we're not Nazis. Don't fight with JP. I have thank you to SCB. I have no intention of starting a fight with Jordan Peterson. I'd like to know why he has a habit of throwing allies under the bus, and I'd like to talk to him a bit more about the theological. Well, what I see is a theological and a philosophical vacuum at the heart of his philosophy, because it seems to me that, and we talked about this yesterday a little bit. It seems to me that the undeliverable promise of a relief from suffering, which seems to be Peterson's moral project, is essentially a Marxist aspiration. So I'd like to talk to him about that, and hopefully I will, but we'll see. I'm on a fixed income line. I think you're a good guy. Thank you so much. That's great. Love you forever, Milo. Thank you, my angel. Sabrina Santiago, that's lovely. Thank you. Cynthia, we have dealt with. I'm half black and Puerto Rican. Do I at least get 5% off? Yes, I suppose you do. You should give us an email. Alice, Cersei, thank you very much for your... I'm going to have to run through some of these. I'm sorry. Very much grateful for your generosity, Alice. That's great. Miles Foreman, hugely generous. Thank you. Let's catch up and terrorize Art Basel for sure. Email me. SEB, another message. Thank you very much. She says the Freddie Mercury version of you is nothing compared to this Milo. Well, thank you. Cage342 with another installment. All is forgiven, Milo, worth waiting for. Thank you. I will. Let me just have a quick look down here. Thank you very much to everybody else. Tugot Cuba, De Majesticone, Bacon Grease, Karthik Prabhu, John Smith, Neil Anderson. All of you, thank you very much. Appreciate you popping up in the super chat, which is absolutely lovely of you, and thank you. And Dumpstertron in particular, and literally Pooney just now. Been a dangerous sub since the service came out. Thank you very much, Bob Jones, Storm Cop, Kathy. Just one question. Have you heard of Nuance Bro? No, I have not. Chadwick, do you know Nuance Bro?
No, I don't. I've never heard of Nuance Bro.
There was a pause that told me you had to unmute your mic, which means we don't have your full attention.
No,
that was a question. You can't just.
No, you do. Well, I actually was just texting you a couple things because you were just. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I just tune you out most of the time, but yeah, I did get on mute for a second.
Thank you. Okay. I think that we should leave it there for tonight because I've dealt with the stuff that I wanted to about subscribers. I'm going to recapitulate all the stuff that I put in the subscriber email. If you are listening to this, thank you very much. If you've been here, thank you very much. Cynthia, you are extraordinary. Make sure you email me, and I will make sure you get a beautiful handmade leather-bound copy of the book, and I'll make sure I write something lovely in there. Thank you very much, and to all of the others of you, and to everybody else, thank you. Chadwick, you've contributed nothing, and no, my fault really, because I haven't really asked you anything interesting. But
you never do. You've never once, whenever I've been on with you, asked it. I know what I'm signing up for, and I do this. I just sit and laugh at your jokes. That's about it.
Okay. Well, okay. So in the last, what time is it? It's 1:41. We've got 4 minutes left. In the last 4 minutes. Could you, if in the chat, super chat or the regular chat, whatever, give some questions for Chadwick? What are your questions for Chadwick? Do you want to know about his? Excuse me, I'm talking. Do you want to know about his disgusting proclivities with working class Mexicans? Do you want to know anything else about Chadwick Moore? Ask your questions now. I will ask him 2 of the questions. Someone said, hey, that's what all sidekicks do. No, Chadwick is not my sidekick. Chadwick is my boss. He's the one in charge. He's only here to make sure I don't fuck up too badly. Chadwick, are you still on the toilet?
No. Are we talking about physically? No, I'm not. Somebody just said Chadwick is a Robin Quivers of the Milo live stream, and I think I said that exact same thing to you recently.
I don't know who that is. Should I know who that is?
That's Howard Stern's sidekick, the woman.
Oh, what Robin? Sorry, yeah, I just didn't know her name. Okay, fine. Okay, yeah. No, I mean, I would like you to speak more. You've just been very distracted this evening, which is fine because you made some reasonable contributions yesterday. Not holding it against you, but next time we do a live stream, I will be placing more of a burden of work on you. But the good news is you have very much, by showing up this late into the morning, you have earned your $11 monthly stipend. So congratulations. You should be very happy about your contribution. All right. Okay. Chadwick, when will we see you on Fox again? When there's something gay in the news. Chadwick's like Milo's version of Psychic Bear. I don't really know what that is. You should come to SAS 2018. Well, I have to be invited because I don't want to show up and have Charlie and Candace not know what to do with me. All right, there's a lot of love for Chadwick. People are very much enjoying you. Chadwick, are you a top? Chadwick is a top if they're white or black. And no, I'm just kidding. He's a top if they're Hispanic, versatile if they're white, and a bottom if they're black. Is that correct?
I'm not answering that.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay, good. So I'm very gifted. I've got good sex style. You know, I instinctively understand about people's depraved and disgusting sexual proclivities. Thank you, Chadwick. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for popping up and being lovely. Thank you to the subscribers, and I'm sorry. I'm going to read you one more time the email before we clock off for the evening. Let's see. Oh, here we go. I will not be doing the daily podcast any longer. All charging has been halted on the website and new signups have been turned off. If you're an existing subscriber, you're going to get full-length audio copies of my next 3 books. When I sign off from here, Diabolical is going to be uploaded. You'll probably get it by the time you wake up. Anyone who's signed is going to become a legacy member. You never pay for anything digital from me ever again. Other companies I can't vouch for if I'm on a show from somebody else, but that's it. I'm setting up an email address. You'll get information about that where you can email me directly, and you will get priority over everybody else. When I do my fan mail replies every 3 weeks, you'll get a signed copy of Despicable when it comes out. All 10,000 of you will get a credit for a free Milo ringtone voicemail message or a short personalized video message. And if I have to be up all night on Adderall and whatever else, recording them all, so be it. Like Santa and my husband, I'm one of life's natural givers. It's a joke. I'm not. But you've got to redeem that by the end of 2019. So you've got to get your voicemail or your ringtone or your short message by Christmas. Legacy member said it's going to give you future access, early bird, whatever. You're also about to get permanent black status in the Dangerous store. So when you are logged in on dangerous.com with your VIP credentials, you'll get 10% off everything all year round forever. There'll be some other stuff that I'm going to tell you about later. This has been lovely. Thank you so very much. And on a future episode of the show, we'll be delving deep into the dark heart of Chadwick Moore's grotesque upbringing. We'll be looking at the reasons why he has turned into the monster that we see before us today. In the meantime, I was dreading doing this, but I actually had a lot of fun because you were all so lovely. So thank you very much. God bless. Lots of love and good night.
Good night, everyone.